Okay, yes, we're on, we're live. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Really great to have you here. If you are here with us live, it'd be brilliant. Put a thumbs up in the comments, leave a comment, ask a question. Let's get some engagement today. This is the next in our vendor review series, and today we're going to be speaking with ServiceNow, vendor interview series even. So we're speaking with ServiceNow, and I'll introduce our guest speaker in just a moment. But for those of you who've not joined us before, welcome again. This is Xcession. I'm Daniel Gilby. I'm an account manager with Xcession. And for those of you who are unaware, I'm just going to flash up a slide on screen here to give you a flavor of what we're all about. But we're a managed services consulting and implementation partner around all things ITSM and ESM. Some details in the slide there. And when you have time, check out the website link in the slide. I'm joined, as always, with my co-presenter colleague, Sunil. Sunil?
Hello, thank you, Dan. Hello, everybody. Good to be here. Quick intro to me. I am the CRO of Xcession, more than a decade now in the ITSM, ESM world, and really looking forward to this one. I think I'm really interested to talk to our guest about ServiceNow and the moves they're making in the market.
Fantastic. And so without further ado, welcome, Graham. Thank you for joining us. And I'll just flash this up on screen. So Graham Curran, ServiceNow Transformation Director. Great to have you with us. Graham, perhaps you'd like to do a quick intro for the audience, please.
Thanks both, and I really appreciate the invitation to be here. So yeah, I'm Graham Curran. I'm Transformation Director with ServiceNow in the UK. My role is to help probably our biggest customers with their most complex transformation programs. I spend a lot of time helping them to deliver ServiceNow solutions, but I also work a lot on getting value for our customers from the platform. My own background is as a consultant. I was a program manager, been a CTO, enterprise architect, service delivery manager, so not in software at all. So this is my first ever job in software company, a software company.
But you come, Graham, with all of the cuts and bruises and war wounds of having done this in the real world, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the reason I joined ServiceNow, because I was a CTO having to transform a technology service. And the first time I came across ServiceNow, I realized the potential it had for not just transforming the technology part of the business, but all parts of our organization. And that led to a very successful implementation and then me finding a job at ServiceNow.
Very good. All right. Shall I kick off, Dan? Sorry,
yeah, I know you had an awkward silence there for a second, but I know you had a really great opening question for Graham, Sunil, so I was waiting for you to deliver that seamlessly.
Sorry for the small pause. Thank you. So, Graham, I guess to open this up with a pretty broad question, really, but I think it perhaps encapsulates really maybe the moment in time that we are now with the development of ServiceNow as an organization and as a tool set. So, ServiceNow is no longer an ITSM solution, right? The portfolio has broadened significantly. And even though I think probably for many customers, ITSM is the landing point, actually it's no longer the destination. So I guess, maybe you could tell us a little bit about, how ServiceNow is trying to present itself in the marketplace, and, what are the big customer challenges that you're looking to address?
Yeah. And I guess it's strange when you look at the history of ServiceNow, it wasn't ever conceived as an ITSM platform. So when you listen to Fred Luddy, the founder, he conceived of a digital automation platform, a platform that could more or less automate or digitize any process. And he said when he went to his investors and said, I've got this platform, it can do pretty much anything. They said, well, like what? Well, anything you want. But investors always want a niche or something you're famous for. Yeah. So the first use case he tackled was ITSM. So he took this general digital business platform and applied it to ITSM. It became incredibly successful. And then we've moved from there to actually tackle other parts of the enterprise. So from ITSM, we moved into employee workflows, so automating a lot of the interactions that employees have with their organizations, automating customer interaction, so customer service, so customer workflows, as we call it. And then the third sort of strand is creator workflows, our low-code and no-code platform, which is what ServiceNow originally started as, was a low-code, no-code platform. So yeah, we probably were never specifically ITSM, but that's how our evolution has gone.
That's really interesting, and I have to say I didn't know that about the origins of the business. But what you've I mean, it must present, and I guess you're exactly the right person to talk to about this, but that lack of focus or niche, and I say that, I mean, you don't have a lack of focus or niche now, but you are trying to tackle the broader enterprise and workflows across it. How do you go and talk to a customer and try and sell that opportunity to them, not sell ServiceNow, but sell the opportunity for those organizations to transform and take advantage of that? Because it's a big, it's looking at the whole cake, right? Isn't it? And I don't know if you've watched Matilda the musical, right? But Bruce, he eats the whole cake, but there are some side effects that come along with that.
Yeah. I guess to take the first part of that question in terms of how do we approach organizations, and it's usually from a perspective of trying to understand what their strategic objectives are, what their key challenges are, what their strategic imperatives are. So nothing to do with technology. What would improve the efficiency of the organization? What would help you achieve your agenda, or your strategic outcomes if you're a public sector organization, and then translating that into a technology solution. So some of the things that we've done recently, and I was involved in the Northern Ireland Border Protocol. So, Boris Johnson said, yeah, we'll sort this border out, some technology will come along and fix it. The private sector looked and said, no, too small, not enough time, too complex, far too risky, we're not going to risk it. And then the government went, how are we going to build in 3 months an extremely complex border workflow solution? And the answer was ServiceNow. Another interesting example was the vaccination platform. So in Scotland, NHS Scotland came to us and said, look, we need to build a test and protect solution really quickly. And then we need a vaccine management platform very quickly. Both of those were built on ServiceNow. So the conversation wasn't, can we talk to you about your workflows? It was, what are your strategic imperatives? What are your key business challenges? And then we can translate that into a technology solution.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And I mean, it's interesting that those two examples are government, also public sector examples. Do you find that sort of conversation translates as easily into the private sector too?
We're starting to find that, yes. I think it's interesting, I can't say who, but I'm working with one of the high street banks who started using us as an ITSM platform and then have realized that we can do fraud dispute resolution, more or less any kind of workflow in the business. So they've started to look and say, well, actually, one of our big challenges is fraud dispute. It takes a lot of time and effort. We want to improve the customer experience. So we've been able to completely transform that particular operation. Payment operations, very much exception management. What we tend to find is where there's a lot of cost and friction in an organization, you may have a happy path through a system, but when something goes wrong and the customer can't meet their needs through the prescribed method, you've gone to make a payment, it's gone wrong, what do? Then you get into a complex workflow. And that's typically where we come in, and where our commercial customers are starting to say, actually, you can be the platform for exception management, whether that be in customer service or internal employee relations.
So when you talk to customers about this, are you looking for, you're looking, I guess, for the challenges that exist in silos within organizations where you have one business function doing something that another business function maybe upstream or downstream of, and actually there is an inefficiency between those two business functions, and how can you pull those things together to create a consistent, streamlined, predictable workflow that improves whatever those outcomes are.
Yeah, and that tends to be another area of strength for us, is integrating into existing systems. So quite often people immediately think, well, I want to improve how finance works in the organization, or I want to improve how my finance processes work, so I need to go and buy a new ERP in order to do that. Well, yeah, that is one way of doing it, but actually what we've found is typically there aren't that many processes that everybody interacts with in a finance system. And so we provide workflows that sit in front of your existing finance system, create a great employee experience, allow you to connect multiple departments together in those cross-organizational workflows, and create a really engaging experience, a very nice user interface, consistent with all the other processes that you might be interacting with in an organization. In fact, a number of customers are actually seeing this as a way to extend the life of their rather aging ERP systems. So why do a multi-million-pound ERP rip and replace when you can put a nice front end on it and create some really great experiences over your ERP?
We should perhaps we should get you involved in one of the customers that Xcession is working with, a financial services business that's just started to look at. So they act as although the organization within the broader group that we deal with acts as an internal service provider to a number of entities operating in their regions, and they're just trying to have a look now at the total cost of ownership of the services that they deliver, both from a sort of efficiency and productivity improvement perspective. Where are we efficient, where can we make improvements, but also in terms of being able to I guess in a way justify and price compare their service versus external service providers who may want to deliver IT or whatever other sort of central services that those operating entities might need. So maybe there's a conversation we'll have on a separate one about that customer. Anyway, I guess this leads really nicely into my second question, or the second question we had, which was, ServiceNow is at the upper end of the pricing spectrum when you look at your comparators, certainly in the ITSM world. I wouldn't know so much about the customer workflow side of things, or that kind of thing. But how do you justify, or how do you help customers justify their investment in ServiceNow? What's the sort of things that you're looking for to kind of say this is worthwhile from your perspective?
Sure. Yeah, and for me, it's about value and return on investment rather than cost. And
absolutely, yeah.
So the kind of light bulb moment I had was when I was trying to square this circle of how do you justify a higher cost. First of all, you look at the functionality and the productivity that functionality drives, and then you look at the return on investment. So typically, I see customers improving productivity by 20 to 25%, reducing the volume of incidents, sometimes up to 40%, and reducing their mean time to recover. So when you look at those three metrics, you suddenly realize that you've really boosted the productivity of your organization. And if you think about what you pay your people, the people in the organization, you look at their salary, and then you look at the cost of the tool that they're using 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, that tool is what drives their productivity. So if that tool, which probably costs 1-2% of their salary, can drive a 20-40% improvement in their productivity, you suddenly think, wow, look at the return on investment in those terms. Now, you might also say, well, actually, I'm not planning to get rid of any of my people, so I can't cash those savings. I would then ask you to think about the time that you save. Because if you look at where you spend your time as an IT organization, you're either doing run, change, transform, or protect. If most of your time is spent in run, you're not delivering much change or transformation, and you might even be neglecting the protect side. So if you can have a system that is so efficient on the run part of your organization, you can then free up 20-30% of your resource to move into the change and transform. And that's what delivers real value to, if you're an IT organization, to your customers. That's what makes a real difference to the business. So I tend to ask people to focus on the value, not the cost.
Yeah. I think one of the challenges that often, and I guess this is why ServiceNow employ you, right? But one of the challenges that organizations often have is that they struggle to see beyond the sort of the immediate confines of the organization that they work within, or the part of the organization they work within. But actually what you're saying here is, the business benefits around, for example, speed of change, which allows you to be competitive in your marketplace, to be reactive to new entrants into the marketplace, or socio-economic change that might happen very quickly, right? If you think of COVID or Ukraine or whatever it may be, that actually what ServiceNow is enabling is an ability to change quickly, or to manage risk, or to drive whatever it is, a new product, a new service into a new marketplace. And actually you can invest your time and effort and energy on those things rather than simply keeping the lights on.
Yep, I couldn't have put it better myself, actually. You could come into my team. That's an excellent description of what the platform does.
And come on, Dan, let's have a little caption at the bottom with a thumbs up for me there.
We'll definitely get that on one of the outtakes that we do from this. Certainly. Yeah.
And I think part of the reason we can deliver that agility, that pace, is that the platform comes with thousands of pre-built workflows. We've built these workflows over many years. We've got 8,000 customers globally, virtually every market segment you can imagine. And we have a low-code capability that allows you to orchestrate those pre-built workflows. So when someone comes to us with a challenge that looks slightly different to something that's out the box, it doesn't usually take much to take a few of our pre-built components, take our low-code and orchestrate those pre-built components, and boom, you've got a brand new solution. That's I think we really excel.
That was going to be one of the questions I had, is like, you're working with a lot of these different organizations, and to use the ERP example you gave earlier, whereas how often is it you're seeing like a really truly unique scenario in these organizations? And I can imagine that that's sort of few and far between, because, well, aside from a few nuances specific to that company, it's going to be a very similar, if not exactly the same kind of challenge. You can say, okay, well, we solved this by doing X over here, and what we need to do here is X plus 1, and then you're going to be kind of good to go.
Yeah, we had a really interesting, our ESG platform, so environmental, social governance, when a lot of the kind of legislation and thoughts around that emerged, we looked at our platform and said, well, what are the components of ESG? Well, you need governance and compliance. And we have an integrated risk management, governance, risk and compliance solution. So we've got that. You need to be able to track assets. Yeah, we've got that. You need to be able to do strategy, project and change management. So you're measuring what you're doing on all these initiatives. And you need employee relations. You need to understand your people and what they're doing and your employee processes. And actually we have that out the box, so all the different parts of our platform. And you'd like to say it was genius, forethought. Actually, to your point, Daniel, ESG was a requirement that was slightly different, but a lot of the underlying requirements were pretty standard, and they were already pre-existing in the platform. So, and we're still looking. There are still edge cases that we're moving towards. We recently moved into legal service delivery, workplace service delivery came out during the pandemic, so managing desk allocation, room booking, cleaning, space management, people management within a building, facilities integration. So that's come out, and procurement service delivery is another recent addition. So there are still parts of the platform that are evolving. But yeah, you're right. We pretty much tackled most of the challenges that an organization would face.
And there's a danger, Graham, isn't there, of there being a skew for everything. But we won't go down that particular rabbit hole. Do you know, one of the things that really comes across here is that there's obviously great maturity in the platform. Does that necessitate, in your opinion, a high level of maturity on the customer side to be able to drive that value?
Probably yes, to some extent. That part of your transformation. So if you're a mature organization with well-established processes, business change, you understand the investment that's required to deliver transformation, then yes, ServiceNow is the tool you will need. You won't achieve transformation without effort. So no matter how good the tool is, you need to have people who can understand the requirements and deliver that business change. If you're not a massively mature organization, then part of the transformation is becoming more mature. As you'll need to define processes. You'll need to be able to communicate those processes. You'll need to be able to train people. So yes, to some extent, you do need to be. You need to either start mature or be prepared to mature during the process to deliver the results. But I would argue, if you're going to deliver transformation, you would need to do that anyway. You won't deliver transformation as an immature organization.
Yes. And I think ambition here is key, isn't it? So, you need to have the ambition to go on the journey, right? And I think, in previous conversations, you have said that if a customer really is only looking at fulfilling very simple workflows, then maybe ServiceNow isn't necessarily the right tool set for them.
Yeah, I mean, and yes, probably. I think that'd be a red flag for us if we had somebody a customer who was saying, I really just want tool swap. I've got tooling. I now want to buy a new ticketing solution that will manage tickets. I have no vision for transformation. I don't want to improve my service year on year. I just want to keep delivering what I've always done. I want to put the minimum amount of time and effort into this. Then potentially we're not the right platform.
Well, you would argue that they should just stay where they are if that's the case, and not move at all. But yeah, so thank you. I think that's actually for our customers, the way Xcession represents itself in the marketplace is to go and really talk to customers as you do, right, in terms of the outcomes that they're trying to drive and associate what we think is the right tool set and the right capability that they need to go on their journey. And it's not always ServiceNow, it's not always Freshworks, it's not always Jira Service Management. There's a reason why there's so many tools in the marketplace. But let's talk a little bit about everybody's favorite topic of the day, which is AI. And actually, Dan in particular, but I suppose both of us are on a little bit of a mission to really try and get to grips with what's behind some of the hubris around AI. What are the actual elements of this capability that's coming into the platform that customers are able to use, maybe not today, but very soon? What's really happening, that's making these opportunities for productivity gain a reality. So maybe you could give us an insight into what ServiceNow is doing in that space and how to help customers.
So I think firstly, it's our number one priority right now.
Okay.
Front and center, absolutely urgent, top of the agenda. So we first developed and launched our generative AI capability in September last year. We now have over 100 customers using it. It is the main focus for our development and engineering organization. At the moment, we've focused on 3 parts of the platform for generative AI. First is in ITSM, where we've got things like incident summary, so call summary. When an agent opens up a ticket, the call summarized for them. They're offered a series of potential solutions using AI, and there's automatic call closure. And we're seeing that drive anything from about 25 to 80% productivity improvement in agent productivity. We've got AI in the creator workflows, so the low code, so where we have text to code. So we've always had a citizen developer capability, but now you can type in English what you want your workflow to be, and we will then create a ServiceNow workflow from that. So we see that massively boosting, well, not boosting developer productivity, but actually boosting development productivity, because you now have far more non-skilled developers developing good quality code, where that text turns into a piece of code that a developer can tweak later if it be. and also in the HR service delivery area where we're building AI. But the roadmap will be monthly updates and going right through the platform with generative AI.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, that's I have to say. So we've asked this question to a number of the people that we've talked to, and I think, and perhaps unsurprisingly, you know, you're more developed or you're more advanced in some of your generative AI capabilities than others. I think this is a really interesting space, isn't it? And it's interesting to hear that you're putting it front and center because, you know, it's almost a you know, you told the story of you know, Fred Luddy saying, "I built this solution for everything." Yeah, and that's kind of almost how AI is being presented in the marketplace now, isn't it? I've got a solution for everything. We'll use AI, and actually seeing how it becomes a reality for customers is interesting.
The thing I like about it, and I think probably to be quite clear in our position, so we're using our own large language models.
Yes.
So questions of data privacy, data governance, ethics, hallucinations, all reduces because this will be a supported part of our product platform. And our plan is to coexist with other AI models across the enterprise, but absolutely own the ServiceNow space because it will be, we'll be training the models on our data, our customers' data, very specifically to ServiceNow. So it's not just general data that you're trying to train this. This is ServiceNow specific.
And I guess, you know, starting in ITSM makes a lot of sense because that's where you probably got the bulk of your historic data set, right? You've got, you know, the most opportunity there, haven't you, to develop and train your models.
Yeah, and I mean, you go from incident and start to think about AI in problem. So you wouldn't need to do much problem management because AI is going to do it all for you and start suggesting. We kind of have something like that at the moment. We use AI to scan instances. So it will scan all the instances in an instance and tell you what your biggest consumers of time, your biggest contributors to MTTR, your biggest contributors to cost are by scanning all the instances, producing a report for you. We benchmark with customers. So one of the big tools that helps productivity, the AI again has been used for, is comparing your stats versus your competitors so that gives you an immediate view as to how to improve. So if your time to recovery is at the bottom quartile for your particular sector, you know that's an area you need to focus on. You know, we can tell you what your target for, you know, incident resolution or number of calls per agent should be. So that AI has been there for quite some time. But yes, moving into generative AI in problem, in change, starting to predict the risk of a change failing, looking at previous failed changes, looking at the particular characteristics of a change, but other parts of the platform too, risk, you know, Gen AI and risk, where, you know, you're not relying on people reporting risk, but you're actually then starting to look at data and proactively identifying risks becomes really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously it's been prevalent, hasn't it, for a long time in IT operations management, you know, looking at event data and that sort of thing. Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? It's a, you know, real area for a lot of change and a lot of very rapid change, I think.
Yeah, and certainly for me, it's a huge game changer in terms of productivity.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Where do you see it ending, Graham, if there is an end?
I can't imagine what the whole platform will be like when it's enabled by Gen AI, because I mean, the thing that really brought me to ServiceNow, as I said, you know, I was a CTO, and I was, you know, my responsibilities were managing service, instant problem change, managing risk, managing cyber, managing change delivery. So I had to manage projects and programs, managing development teams. You have the whole sort of gamut of responsibilities. And I came to ServiceNow because I suddenly realized I could run the entire organization on ServiceNow, and all of those parts would be integrated. So my risk function integrated with my CMDB, integrated with my project. So I could look at any system in our landscape and understand what the risks were associated with it, what projects had run against that system or were planned against that system. You had that real single holistic view. And that single platform was really powerful for me. And also the fact that when you buy a platform and people say, well, we've got a project management capability, we've got a risk capability, there's a tendency to say, yeah, but is it really that good? Are you not really compromising in quality if you're buying a one size fits all solution? But what really got me was all these individual solutions are all Gartner top right. So ITSM is Gartner top right. Everybody knows that. We're quite far up in the quadrant. But our low code capability is also Gartner top right rated. Our project management solution competes toe to toe with pure play project management solutions. So actually, you're not compromising quality to choose that complete ServiceNow suite. And the bit that really excites me is it's a single data model. It's a single platform. There's no integration between the modules. It is just one platform. So when you start applying AI to that, the insights you're going to get into the organization are going to be incredible.
Yeah, amazing.
So Graham, thank you very much. I mean, just conscious that we've kind of just ticked over the 30-minute marker. How about if I just ask you one final question, and then maybe we do some closing comments. But if you were to speak to somebody who's thinking to deploy ServiceNow for the first time, what would be kind of like your top 3 sort of things to be aware of, perhaps, or things to be mindful of?
Things to be mindful of. There's a lot. I spend a lot of time working with customers. Really,
just kind of top 3 things. What would if you were going to say to them, okay, here are top 3 things you need to sort of consider.
So I think first of all, there's find a partner. Almost all our implementations are run by partners. We will participate in an implementation.
Like Xcession.
Xcession, yes. So give yourself time to find the right partner, a partner that you can work with. Almost all our partners will use our standard Now Create implementation methodology. But make sure you've got your partner lined up. We talked a little bit about maturity. So make sure your data and your processes are reasonably well understood before you start. And make sure you've allowed resource to run that project and to deliver the real transformation. I think are the key things, tips for success. They're quite low level, I think, in terms of how would you do a successful implementation. If I was talking to someone who was starting their journey with ServiceNow, I would ask them to think about what their vision is for technology transformation, and even beyond that, what their vision is for automation across their whole business, because that really creates the roadmap for ServiceNow transformation.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, Graham, thank you ever so much for joining us today. To those of you watching us live, if you've got any questions, comments, anything you'd like to find out more about, leave a comment, get in touch with one of us. That's it for now. I'll just pop this up on screen. And again, thank you very much, everybody. I'll put this there and see you again on the next session.
Graham, thank you very much. It's been fantastic today.
Thank you both. Really enjoyed it. Thank you for the opportunity.
Our pleasure.